Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in life when the mirror we're looking into no longer reflects who we are, but who we were. That's the call. That's the shift. That's the moment of transformation. Romans 12 tells us, don't conform, be transformed, not by the world, not by your past, not by your failures, but by the renewing of your mind. Transformation begins with the renewal of your mind, not the removal of your problems. This simple yet profound truth shifts the entire perspective of how we grow, how we overcome, and how we walk into the life we're meant to live. Too often, we think that change will come when our circumstances change, when the pressure lifts, when the pain goes away, or when the obstacles clear. We believe that once the external things shift then, and only then, can we experience transformation. But real transformation doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It doesn't need all the answers. It doesn't demand that everything around us be easy or fair. Transformation starts internally. It begins when we decide to change how we think, how we perceive, how we process the world around us. Because what happens in your mind determines what happens in your life. Problems are inevitable. Struggles will come. You can't outrun adversity. You can't hide from reality. But what you can do is rewire the way you respond. That rewiring, that reset of the mental framework, is the renewal of your mind. It's choosing a new narrative over the old one. It's refusing to let fear have the mic in your head. It's recognizing that just because a thought is loud doesn't mean it's true. It's replacing reaction with reflection. It's saying, I might be surrounded by chaos, but I won't let the chaos live in me. That's the shift. That's the power. Because when your mind is renewed, you're no longer a slave to what's happening around you. A renewed mind sees problems as possibilities. It doesn't ignore pain, it just refuses to be defined by it. It doesn't pretend the struggle isn't real, but it knows the struggle isn't final. Renewal is choosing purpose over panic. It's choosing peace even when there's pressure. When your thoughts are transformed, your entire perception changes. The same situation that would have broken you before now becomes a platform. The very thing you thought would take you out becomes the thing that lifts you up. Not because it's easier, but because you're different on the inside. That inner shift is where transformation lies. It's not about pretending your problems don't exist. It's not about denial. It's about realignment. It's about understanding that lasting change flows from identity, not circumstance. You don't become who you are because your life gets easier. You become who you are because your mind gets stronger. And a strong mind doesn't avoid storms. It learns how to stand in them. It learns how to speak truth to lies, how to find clarity in confusion, how to walk in hope when everything else says quit. Every problem you face brings a voice with it. It speaks doubt, fear, insecurity, regret. And if your mind is unguarded, untrained, unrenewed, those voices take root. But when your mind is renewed, you start to recognize the voice of truth over the noise of fear. You discern, you filter. You don't just accept every thought. You test it. Is this aligned with who I'm becoming? Is this feeding fear or feeding faith? A renewed mind doesn't just think better thoughts. It thinks true thoughts. It lives by intention, not reaction. It knows that what goes unchecked in your thoughts will eventually show up in your habits, your words, your relationships, your life. You can try to fix everything around you, but if your mindset stays the same, the results will repeat. That's why so many people change locations, change jobs, change relationships, even change goals, but still feel stuck, because the outer change was never the answer. The true transformation was waiting on the inside, in the mind. When you renew your thoughts, you don't need to wait for permission to live differently. You don't need everything to line up before you make a move. You just need a shift in how you see it. Perspective is power. And your mindset is the lens through which you interpret everything that happens to you. Renewing your mind is not a one-time thing. It's daily, it's intentional, it's gritty. It requires repetition, discipline, awareness. You've spent years being programmed by your past, by your environment, by voices that didn't believe in you, by experiences that tried to define you. And now you have to unlearn some of that. You have to reprogram. You have to stop rehearsing worst case scenarios in your mind and start visualizing what happens when things go right. Because a renewed mind is a hopeful mind. It's a mind that doesn't just react to the world. It creates impact in the world. There's a reason why some people thrive under pressure and others collapse. It's not just about skill or talent. It's about mindset. It's about what they believe when the lights go out, when no one's watching, when the pressure is real and the outcomes are uncertain. Those who have renewed their minds have trained themselves to see opportunity in adversity. They don't deny the weight. They rise under it. They understand that their thought life is the thermostat of their destiny. Set it low and you'll always live below your potential. Set it high and you'll start rising to meet it, even if the problems don't go away. You can't control every thought that shows up, but you can control which ones stay. You can challenge them, replace them, speak truth over them. That's the process. You take ownership. You stop letting your mind be a playground for fear and start making it a battleground for truth. It's not easy, but it's worth it, because the cost of an unrenewed mind is a life half lived. It's settling for survival when you were made for more. Your thoughts are seeds. What you plant today will grow tomorrow. So if you're planting thoughts of defeat, don't be surprised when you harvest a life of limitation. But if you start sowing thoughts of purpose, of power, of clarity, of identity, watch what grows. Watch your life start to rise to the level of your thoughts. That's not hype, that's alignment. Your outer world reflects your inner world. You want better results, start with better thoughts. It's not about waiting for life to get easier. It's about getting stronger internally. Because when your mind is right, you can face anything. You can walk through fire and not burn, walk through storms and not drown, not because you're pretending, but because you're prepared. You've trained your mind to rise, to focus, to stand. That's transformation. That's the power of a renewed mind. It's not the absence of problems. It's the presence of a new perspective. And once that clicks, everything changes from the inside out. Conforming is easy, transforming is intentional. It's natural for people to adapt to their surroundings, to fall in line with what's common, what's comfortable, what everyone else is doing. It requires very little effort to go with the flow, to think like the crowd, to mirror the habits, fears, and limitations of those around you. That's conformity. It's passive. It doesn't ask questions. It doesn't challenge the norm. It accepts what is handed to it without ever asking if it's true, if it's right, or if it aligns with purpose. Conforming is autopilot. It's following the path of least resistance. It's doing what's familiar, even if it's not what's fulfilling. Transformation, on the other hand, is a choice. It's active. It's intentional. It's a daily decision to step outside the mold, to break patterns that don't serve you, and to become someone who lives by conviction, not convenience. It's not about rebelling for the sake of rebellion. It's about aligning your life with something deeper, something real. Transformation starts the moment you stop asking, what is everyone else doing, and start asking, what am I being called to do? That question alone can change the entire direction of your life. Conforming feels safe because it's familiar. It feels like belonging, but there's a dangerous comfort in conformity. It lulls you into complacency. It tells you that fitting in is more important than growing up. It convinces you that staying small is safer than stepping into something greater. But nothing great ever came from blending in. Growth requires separation. Destiny requires distinction. Transformation requires that you look at the patterns around you and make a conscious decision. I will not follow that just because it's easy. It takes strength to not conform when everyone else is. It takes vision to believe there's more for your life when the world tells you to settle. And it takes courage to let go of what's predictable in order to pursue what's possible. That's why transformation is so rare, because it demands effort. It demands discipline. It demands sacrifice. It asks you to question your own thoughts, your own behaviors, your own beliefs. It confronts the stories you've told yourself for years. It forces you to look inward, to examine what you've accepted as normal, and decide if it still serves the person you're becoming. Transformation is intentional because it requires focus. You can't transform while distracted. You can't transform while trying to be everything to everyone. You have to make a conscious decision to live differently, to think differently, to respond differently, and that difference doesn't come from the outside. It starts in the mind. Your thoughts shape your patterns shape your habits shape your identity. So when you decide to transform, you're not just changing what you do, you're changing who you are. You're no longer letting the culture define you. You're letting your convictions shape you. There's nothing accidental about transformation. It's not something that happens when life gets easier. It's something that happens when you choose it, when you lean into the tension, when you show up on the days you don't feel like it, and when you decide that growth matters more than approval. Approval will keep you stuck. Growth will set you free. Conforming chases applause. Transformation chases alignment, and you have to choose, because you can't chase both. Conforming requires no accountability. You can hide in the crowd. You can blend in. You can make excuses, point fingers, and stay stagnant while convincing yourself you're doing enough. But transformation calls you out. It challenges your excuses. It exposes your comfort zone. It brings light to your blind spots, and it invites you to be more than what the world says you are. That's why it's uncomfortable, that's why it's hard, but that's also why it's worth it. You don't drift into transformation. You decide into it. You train for it. You fight for it. It's in the discipline of your decisions. It's in the repetition of choosing what's right over what's easy. It's in the moments no one sees, when you keep showing up, keep working, keep believing, even when the results haven't shown up yet. Transformation is slow, it's subtle, it's a process. But every day you choose it, you're breaking out of the mold. Every time you decide to rise instead of retreat, you're building something stronger inside of you. You're creating a foundation that won't be shaken by every opinion, every setback, every storm. Most people don't transform because they never commit long enough. They expect results without resistance. They want change without the cost, but transformation demands your focus, your time, your faith. It requires you to get serious about who you're becoming. It asks you to silence the noise of the world so you can hear your own truth clearly. And in a world that constantly pressures you to conform, to trends, to opinions, to standards that don't reflect your purpose, that's not easy, but you were never called to easy. You were called to evolve. To rise, to break cycles, to set new standards, you were called to lead, not follow, and leadership begins with self. It begins with mastering your thoughts, your emotions, your responses, because transformation is not about being perfect. It's about being committed. It's about progress. It's about becoming so aligned with your values that you no longer need the world's validation to move forward. Conforming feels like a shortcut, but it's really a detour. It may get you quick acceptance, but it'll never give you lasting fulfillment. Transformation takes longer, but it builds something real, something rooted, something unshakable, because when you transform, you no longer depend on your environment to determine your identity. You carry your identity into any environment. You lead with conviction, not comparison. You walk with clarity, not confusion. And you stand with purpose, not pressure. There's power in knowing that you don't have to stay the way you were. You don't have to follow the patterns that shaped your past. You don't have to live inside the limb it's others put on you. Every day is a new opportunity to transform, not by trying to be someone else, but by becoming fully who you are. That process is intentional. It's not about chasing perfection. It's about choosing purpose, even when it costs comfort. It's about recognizing that the path to the life you're meant for is paved with choices that most people won't make. Because most people conform, but you're not most people. And that realization is where transformation begins. So here we are, at the edge of everything we've talked about, and yet standing at the beginning of something even greater, the moment where all the pieces come together, where truth meets choice, and belief demands action. Because this is where transformation truly begins. It's not in the hearing. It's not even in the feeling. It's in the doing. It's in the commitment to leave behind the ease of conformity and step into the fire of intentional change. You've heard the call. Don't conform to the patterns, the limits, the narratives that have boxed you in. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, not by waiting, not by wishing, but by choosing, deciding, and building something new from the inside out. This isn't about hype. This isn't motivation that fades when life hits hard. This is foundation. This is about what you're building when nobody's watching. It's about what you choose to believe when your back is against the wall. Transformation is not something that happens asterisk to asterisk you. It's something you ignite asterisk within asterisk you. The mind is where it begins, not your circumstances, not your environment, not the people around you. Asterisk you asterisk. Your thoughts, your perspective, your willingness to see differently, think differently, and live differently. Because the truth is, if you don't take control of your mind, something else will, fear will. Insecurity will, culture will, old patterns will. And if you're not intentional, you'll find yourself repeating cycles you were born to break. You'll find yourself living in a version of life that was never meant to define you. But you've been given a power greater than those patterns, a renewed mind. A mind that can unlearn the lies and relearn the truth. A mind that's not shaped by pressure, but by purpose. A mind that's not dictated by the past, but driven by the future. Everything you want to become is rooted in the way you think. You want peace. It starts with your thoughts. You want strength. It's born in your mindset. You want change. It's anchored in how you frame the world. That's why you must protect your mind like your life depends on it. Because it does. Not in the dramatic, surface-level way, but in the deep, spiritual, soul-driven way. Your life moves in the direction of your dominant thoughts. So if your thoughts are small, your life shrinks. But if your thoughts are renewed, refined, and aligned with truth, your life expands. Your vision stretches. Your purpose wakes up. You become who you were created to be. But that takes work, it takes discipline, it takes faith. Every single day you are either reinforcing the old or renewing with the new. You're either conforming or transforming. There's no neutral ground. Every thought is a seed, and over time those seeds bloom. Some grow into fear, some into faith, some into frustration, some into freedom. But you get to choose what you plant. You get to decide what takes root. That's the power of transformation. It gives you the authority to rewrite the story, and don't think for a second that it'll always feel good. It won't. Growth rarely does. Transformation is messy. It's uncomfortable. It strips away the layers that kept you hidden and exposes the real you underneath. But that's the point. You can't become who you're meant to be while staying who you've always been. You have to confront the lies. You have to unlearn the old mindset. You have to let go of the thought patterns that serve the survival version of you, but won't serve the thriving version of you. Yes, it's easier to conform. It's easier to just do what everyone else is doing. To speak how they speak, to live how they live, to think small because they think small. But easy doesn't lead to elevation. Comfort doesn't lead to calling. What leads to transformation is intention. What leads to real change is waking up every day and choosing truth over trends, progress over perfection, growth over comfort. There will be moments when you're tempted to fall back, when the pressure feels too heavy, when the lies sound too loud, when the old patterns come knocking again. But that's when you remind yourself, I am not conforming, I am transforming, I'm not who I used to be, I'm not living by fear. I'm not guided by doubt, I'm anchored in purpose. My thoughts are not random, they're renewed. My vision is not blurry, it's being sharpened, and my journey is not stagnant. It's unfolding, one intentional step at a time. Your future isn't waiting for the world to change. It's waiting for you to change. And you don't need everything figured out to start. You just need to start. Start thinking different. Start speaking different. Start seeing yourself through a renewed lens. No more waiting on permission. No more shrinking to fit. No more repeating what kept you stuck. You are not called to echo the world. You are called to shift it. To lead in it, to rise through it. But you can't rise without renewing. You can't elevate with the old mindset. You must be transformed. This isn't about pretending life is easy. It's about preparing yourself to be unshaken no matter how hard it gets. It's about training your mind to respond with power, not panic, with wisdom, not worry, with faith, not fear. Because the world doesn't need more people who conform, it needs more people who transform. People who think differently, live differently, love differently, lead differently. So as you leave this moment, take this truth with you. The power is in your mind, not the noise, not the crowd, not the chaos. The power is in how you choose to think, believe, and respond. Let that be your focus. Let that be your fuel, because a transformed mind leads to a transformed life. And when your mind is renewed, your vision is unstoppable. Your purpose becomes unshakable, and your life becomes undeniable. You were made for more. You were built for transformation, and now it's time to walk in it. Don't conform, be transformed, and never look back.